All right, so today we're jumping into a really powerful story from the book of Exodus. It's a story about a moment of just catastrophic failure, a totally broken promise, and the incredible, surprising path to getting a second chance. And believe it or not, it all starts with a single dramatic act of destruction.
So, let's kick things off with a question that kind of gets to the heart of this whole thing. When is breaking the rules actually the right thing to do? It sounds completely backward, I know, but the leader at the center of our story, Moses, does exactly that. He smashes the most sacred objects he has. But the real shocker? It's what happens after he does it.
And get this is the real twist. Those words, "May your strength be praised," that's God talking to Moses, praising him for shattering the tablets. So what on earth is going on here? How could destroying something so sacred possibly be the right move?
Okay, so to get this, you really have to picture the scene. Moses has been up on Mount Sinai for 40 days getting the law directly from God. But when he finally comes down the mountain, he finds the Israelites worshiping a golden calf. It's a total betrayal. And in this moment of just white-hot anger, he hurls the stone tablets to the ground, and the physical proof of their deal with God is shattered. The relationship is, literally broken.
So you can imagine the crisis is huge. But the road to fixing things starts with this very specific instruction from God to Moses. And you gotta pay close attention to the wording here. God tells him, carve for yourself. He doesn't just snap his fingers and make a new set appear. He makes a point of saying that Moses is the one who shattered them. And now Moses has to take the first physical step to fix what he broke.
And you see, this isn't just about, replacing a broken vase. The very act of carving becomes a huge part of the healing. This second chance, it has to be built, quite literally, by hand.
And this right here, this is where it gets really interesting. The difference is subtle, but it's everything. The first tablets were a 100% divine gift. God carved them, God wrote on them, they were perfect, and the people rejected them. But the second set, that's a partnership. God still provides the words, the soul of the agreement. But this time, the human partner, Moses, has to provide the physical material. He has to do the work.
So you gotta ask, why? Why does Moses have to do the heavy lifting this time? Well, to explain this, the great medieval commentator Rashi tells this amazing little story, a parable that just makes it all click. It's about a king, his fiancée, and a torn-up marriage contract. So in this story, the king is God, the betrothed is Israel, and that loyal friend is Moses. Moses sees that Israel has betrayed the king, and he knows the king's anger could lead to a death sentence. So he rips up the marriage contract, the tablets, thinking it's better to have a broken contract than a dead bride. Later, when the king and his betrothed make up, the king turns to the friend, to Moses, and he basically says, "Look, I get why you did it. It was brave. But you tore up the first contract, so now you need to supply the paper for the new one." It's all about taking responsibility for the act, even if it was totally necessary.
Okay, so Moses does it. He carves these blank tablets and heads back up the mountain, all alone. He's bringing the raw materials, waiting for God to fill in the blanks. And what he gets this time, it's not just a repeat of the first set of rules. No, it's something way, way deeper.
This moment, this is really the climax of the whole story. As Moses is standing there, holding the tablets he carved himself, God reveals his own character, his very essence. These are what we call the 13 attributes of mercy, and this becomes the real foundation of the new relationship. See, it's not just about a list of rules anymore. It's about character. It's about who God is. And this is such a great example of just how deep that character goes. Let's just take one of these attributes, slow to anger. Now, Rashi explains this doesn't mean God just ignores when people mess up. No, it means he's patient. He holds back, giving people the space they need to fail, realize it, and actually change. It's an active kind of patience, one that's hoping for the best.
And what's so powerful is that these attributes aren't just one-sided. You've got this incredible core of compassion and a solid promise of forgiveness. But it's balanced with a real sense of justice. It's an understanding that, yeah, actions do have consequences. This complex, nuanced vision is the bedrock for the new covenant.
All right, so Moses has just been given this incredible insight into God's very nature. So what does he do? He immediately uses it. And his argument is, well, it's brilliant, and it sounds completely backwards.
He begs God to stay with the people, and the main reason he gives is their biggest flaw. He says, "Please stay with us because we are a stiff-necked, a stubborn people." Just think about that. It seems like the absolute worst thing you could possibly say.
I mean, seriously, can you imagine trying that in your own life? Going into a job interview and saying, hey, you should definitely hire me because, I'm pretty stubborn and don't always listen. It just sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? But Moses knows exactly what he's doing.
But here's the genius move, and Rashi just nails the explanation. Moses connects the people's biggest flaw directly to God's newly revealed character. He's basically saying, you just told me that you are patient and slow to anger. Well, who needs a patient and merciful God more than a bunch of stubborn, stiff-necked people like us? He literally uses their greatest weakness as proof that they are the perfect candidates for God's compassion. It's an incredible argument.
So, when you step back from this whole ancient drama of broken stones and new promises, what does it all mean for us? Well, the lessons here about leadership, forgiveness, and just how we deal with failure are unbelievably relevant.
I think it boils down to a few really powerful ideas. First, that second chances, they're not free passes. You have to show up and do the work. You have to help carve the new stone. Second, real forgiveness, real reconciliation, isn't about just restating old rules. It's about deeply understanding the character of the person you're in a relationship with. And maybe the most amazing idea of all, our flaws don't have to disqualify us. In fact, they can be the very reason we need and deserve compassion. And finally, that's what a true leader does. They argue for their people, not in spite of their flaws, but because they understand them so deeply.
And that really leaves us with a huge question to think about. This whole story is about finding a delicate, difficult balance between accountability and grace, between justice and mercy. In our own, let's face it, pretty stiff-necked world, how do we find that balance for ourselves and for the people around us?